As has often been the case over the past year and a half, Friday has brought another round of not just big news, but in this case, indictments in the Mueller investigation of the last presidential election. And these indictments are pretty big ones. So now we're gonna go to a press conference from earlier today. Rod Rosenstein, who's going to explain some of those indictments.
The indictment charges 13 Russian nationals and 3 Russian companies for committing federal crimes while seeking to interfere in the United States political system, including the 2016 presidential election. The defendants posed as politically and socially active Americans, advocating for and against particular candidates. They established social media pages and groups to communicate with unwitting Americans. After the election, the defendants allegedly staged rallies to support the president-elect while simultaneously staging rallies to protest his election. For example, the defendants organized one rally to support the president-elect and another rally to oppose him, both in New York on the same day. Now, there is no allegation in this indictment that any American was a knowing participant in this illegal activity. There is no allegation in the indictment that the charged conduct altered the outcome of the 2016 election.
He neglected to mention there was one American that was also charged. Donald J. Trump.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Yeah, just kidding. Okay, no, Trump is not charged. I know that as soon as anyone saw Mueller indictments, Russian meddling, but no. So the Russians are charged, and there's one guy who was a conspirator of some sort that set up the fake accounts here.
Yes.
But there was no
Ricky Pinedo of California.
Yes.
Not Ricky Strom.
No.
Although they're still looking into him.
Okay, and you should be looking into him as well at youtube.com/TYT Sports. Anyway, but no one, not Trump, not anyone in his campaign that was knowingly involved, at least with these people that are now charged with meddling in the election.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about those charges. There's 13 individuals, 3 organizations, all were charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States, 3 with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and bank fraud, and 5 with aggravated identity theft. And we have a statement from the initial indictment, which is, it's a little bit long. We've looked through it, it's 37 pages, but we're gonna give you some of the broad strokes. It says this: from in or around 2014 to the present, defendants knowingly and intentionally conspired with each other and with persons known and unknown to the grand jury, that's interesting, to defraud the United States by impairing, obstructing, and defeating the lawful functions of the government through fraud and deceit for the purpose of interfering with the US political and electoral processes, including the presidential election of 2016. And so many of the actual indictments have to do with fraud of various natures. The ways that these organizations used money and hid the fact that they were using the money in that way, the way they transferred information and coordinated all of that, thus giving you a lot of these fraud charges.
All right, so John's absolutely right. That one word in there is very interesting: known and unknown to the grand jury. So what? Don Rumsfeld's ears are ringing. So the known knowns are that these guys did conspire, and what they don't know is, are there other Americans that they conspired with? So they're not foreclosing that possibility. They're not saying, oh, it's definitive that the Trump team did not work with these guys. They did not say that, okay? But right now, don't get me wrong, there is no evidence presented of that, okay? So just giving you the full context. So, and if they conclude all their investigations, then you can say, no, they didn't have any evidence that the Trump team worked with the Russians in the meddling of the elections.
Wittingly.
Right. But that's super important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably mention the fact that there's a lot of unwitting people, after all, as he points out, this extremely complicated and well-funded organization, which is still there and is still trying to manipulate not just our elections and our politics, but a number of other countries, would hide their identity and try to fool everyone into thinking they were regular Americans. And thus, many of the people they would communicate with thought they were speaking with Americans. And so that makes you, if you worked with them, unwitting. However, if you got an email saying that Russia wanted to elect your father and was going to give you information damaging to Hillary Clinton to do that, and then you responded that you love it, and then you have a meeting with that person, you're slightly more witting, even if you're a generally unwitting sort of person.
Yeah, and now Rod Rosenstein emphasized there in the clip that we showed you, now they did try to agitate on different sides, and that is true. But the context of that is very important. So they pretended to be black activists, for example, on the left, as well as Trump supporters on the right. And Rosenstein kind of left it there in the clip that you guys just saw. Now, there's two reasons why he might not have given it the proper context. One, he's a Republican. Two, Trump's been all over his ass. So he wants to say that both sides do it. See, Trump, I was fair, Trump, I was fair. Yeah. And remember, I'm a Republican, and so the Democrats might have also been tricked by the Russians. And that definitely did happen. But it's super important to point out the severity and the magnitude on each side.
Yeah, and the response.
Yes, so the amount of support that went to Trump as opposed to the Democrats was overwhelming. It was mainly in favor of Trump. Overwhelmingly in favor of Trump, okay? Now, if Trump didn't have anything to do with it, okay, then you take it for what it's worth. Let's go get these guys and be done with it, right? But they clearly wanted Trump to win.
Yeah.
And even some of the stuff that they had on the left was aimed at black activists, for example, but told them don't vote and don't support Hillary, just stay home instead. So, and there are people who might have bought into don't vote or go vote for anyone but Hillary Clinton. But even that was aimed at make sure Trump wins.
Yeah, they were trying to drive apathy and try to stop as many people as possible from voting. And in particular, and they make clear in the indictment throughout, they were targeting various religious and racial minority groups. They didn't want those people to feel active. It's one of the ways they were sowing discord.
If you like this video, bless your heart. We got a lot more where that came from. We do a full show every day, Monday through Friday. Come enjoy it ad-free by becoming a member, tytnetwork.com/join.